Channel Pros Jonathan Browning and Anjali Fluker join this week to give you a chance to get to know the latest members of the Channel Pro editorial team, what they're doing to make Channel Pro better for its readers and event attendees, and a whole lot more. It's Channel Pro Weekly number 261, The Crazy Rich Uncle. Hello and welcome to Channel Pro Weekly episode 261. My name is Matt Whitlock, technology editor, online director, and your host for this fine show for folks out there like you. And if you are not sure who you are, you're a VAR, you're an integrator, you're an IT reseller, you're a managed services provider, you're a managed security services provider. There's a lot of acronyms in there. So if you sound like you fit one of those molds, you are in the right place, and we're going to get a lot out of this particular episode. If you don't know what any of those things are that I just said, I encourage you to go online, get Google or Chat GPT ready, because we're going to be throwing a lot of acronyms your way, and you're going to need to know what those are before you understand anything that's going on in this show. But welcome to one and all. We have a great show lined up for you today. As we mentioned on some previous episodes, as our Channel Pro Weekly return is in full effect here, there has been a lot of change at Channel Pro. Lots of things going on, new websites, new events, new event brands, lots of new. I'm just going to say that. Lots of new. And joining us this week, we have some other new as well. There's been a lot of change in the Channel Pro editorial staff. So I'm very excited to have our two latest hires, if you will, join us on the show. Are the latest additions to the editorial staff, to get to know a little bit more about them and to get an idea of like what their plans are for the future. So I'm super excited. So please welcome. We'll start with the man on top, executive editor Jonathan Browning. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Matt. So nice to be here.
It's great to have you as well. Also joining us this week is our senior. Oh gosh, your title is escaping me. I'm so super sorry.
Senior channel editor.
I do a senior something. Senior channel editor Anjali Fluker. Welcome, Anjali.
Thanks, Matt. I'm glad you know my title now.
I do. I knew it was something. I was like, oh, is it senior content editor? I was where I was going in my head, but it is senior channel editor. So awesome to have you joining us as well. So I'm excited to get you guys here, and I want to learn a lot about you. Jonathan, why don't you give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I started my professional career really in the nonprofit space. So I was with an energy efficiency nonprofit for the better part of 11 years, and wore lots of hats in that space, from customer service to sales to marketing to IT, and really enjoyed kind of that nexus between IT and marketing. And so when I left that opportunity, I joined an MSP as a marketing director out of Framingham, Mass. That was TCG Network Services, and was there for the better part of 4 years and acted as their marketing director, and really came to love the channel more than anything in the world. I believe that this industry, maybe on par with healthcare, is the industry that is changing people's lives on a day-to-day basis. We are providing the technology that makes the world go. And so was there for, a nice long stint. We grew them to the point that they were acquired by a larger MSP out of Pittsburgh. And at that point, I jumped ship, went to another MSP out of Rhode Island, was there for a year and a half, and wanted to have a change kind of personally. And the dream was always to chase journalism. That was, right out of college, the thing that I wanted to do. And the one thing that I saw kind of on Indeed that was out there, that was in the channel, that was journalism, that really spoke to me was Channel Pro, and was thrilled to take this opportunity when it came my way.
Awesome. And have you been in the Northeast your whole life?
No. So my dad was Army, so we moved around constantly. So every 2 to 3 years, we were in a different spot. But for the last 20-ish years, I've been in New England, and I will never be a native, and the people here will always remind me of that. But I'm as close as you can be without being a native at this point.
Well, you don't have to worry too much about that unless they're like chasing after you with giant sticks. Those are the ones that you need to avoid when you're up in the Northeast.
In Salem, yes, specifically, if you have any witchcraft abilities, they will chase you down. But other than that, they're pretty cool.
So what parts of the country did you bounce around to? Because were you was it everywhere, or where did you lay roots for a while?
Oh, goodness. So North Carolina and New Jersey and Kentucky, 2 tours in Germany, upstate New York, Georgia, and then finally in Massachusetts. Met my wife in college and moved up here when she said that she would not be moving to the South under any circumstances.
So that's cool. So where in Germany, and how long?
Yep. So the first time was in Ansbach, which is really Bavaria, that side of the country. And at that point, there was a West Germany and an East Germany. My sister was born in Germany in 1984. We were there for the better part of 3 years, and then we moved and continued to bounce. And then, later, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, we were in Karlsruhe, which is on the French border, so the opposite side of the country.
Wow, so you got to experience kind of a different amount of culture, because Germany certainly varies east and west, especially back then. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I would, tell anybody that has the opportunity to travel, do it. Even if it's expensive, even if it's a lot of jet lag or laborious to get there, it will open your horizons. It will give you new opportunities.
Fascinating, fascinating. Well, awesome. Well, great. Thank you for sharing that, Anjali. I want to turn over to you here. So, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and about kind of your background?
Oh gosh, this is going to be anticlimactic. So I came actually to Channel Pro through the journalism route. I spent about 25 years in journalism, studied journalism in college, of course, at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. Originally wanted to be a sportscaster. So I went the sports route, started out as a reporter, worked in a little town about 60 miles northwest of Detroit called the Port Huron Times-Herald, and covered prep sports mostly. Thought I wanted to do professional sports, thought I wanted to be on that circuit. But after a few years, I realized that I didn't like working nights. And so shifted over to community journalism initially. And then I found my route to business journalism. So I've been in that for many years, probably close to 20 years of business journalism now, going from real estate to transportation, and slowly found my way to technology. And after 16 years of, going from reporter to editor, I wanted to do something completely different that was totally out of my comfort zone. And that's how I found the channel. And it is something brand new to me. And I am learning constantly. And the one thing that I feel like I can bring is that journalism background to, everyone here is so knowledgeable about the channel. So I can learn something from everyone else. And I feel like I can contribute the news side of things. And that's a long story short.
Very. You said like it's gonna be anticlimactic, and then I was expecting you to be like, so I was covering criminal entities in prison, and I was going undercover, and so no, but that's cool.
Oh, no,
So
no,
so
no.
you wanted to
I just
join
meant
this.
after Jonathan's Germany living.
So, but no, but the route is very interesting. So what do you have, like a big love of sports? Is that why you wanted to cover that?
Yeah, I did actually. Detroit's like a huge, awesome sports town. And I grew up as a massive NBA fan. And then just, my whole family, of course, we were all fans of the Detroit Pistons, the Detroit Tigers, the Detroit Lions, Detroit Red Wings, and then just grew from there. And I actually really did enjoy covering prep sports. Like high school sports was very fun. And I did everything from soccer to swimming to softball to swim to, even I've covered championship games as well, volleyball championships and football championships. Everything was it was a lot of fun, but it did tend to kind of wear you down. It
Yeah,
was all
was
the
it all
nights and
just
weekends.
writing about the sporting events after the fact, or were you like broadcasting like in real time?
Oh no, I was actually writing. I
Just writing.
wanted to
Okay.
be on TV initially. That was like my initial path that I thought I wanted to be, on-screen talent. And then I realized that I my real love is actually writing and telling stories. And that's really what it is. I love to tell stories. I love to learn things and then share what I know through writing.
And so, are you from the greater Detroit area initially, or is that where you grew up?
Grew actually born in Canada. Both of my parents came to Canada from India, and I spent my first 3 years of my life in Canada, and then we moved over to Detroit and grew up in the Detroit area and moved to Orlando after getting married. And then just loved it here, stuck around.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So are you still a Pistons fan? Because if you are, you realize that I'm from the Chicago area, and therefore I kind of grew up as a Bulls fan. So are we even able to talk to each other without having giant, like, Nerf noodles to hit each other with?
We'll keep them in the background so that no one sees them on screen.
So, s- so let me ask you this. So, you guys are both new to the channel, but you both came on around the same time, right? So what has been your biggest, I don't know, I wouldn't want to say your biggest challenge, but what has been the most interesting aspect of the job that you didn't expect when you came on? Anjali, let's start with you.
Oh, wow. The biggest challenge. I mean, most interesting. Everything has been interesting. I mean, like I said, I came into this really not knowing anything about the channel. So I have been on a massive learning curve. But I think the channel itself is so interesting to me. I mean, just the way things work and just how niche Channel Pro's audience is. It's a very specific audience. And I finally feel like I've talked to enough folks internally to understand how to tell our story. And it's resonating now. I feel like I'm actually able to get out there and meet people and let them know, this is what we do and this is what we want to know. And so the interesting part to me was just figuring out how to explain what we do because it is so specific.
That is very true. That is very true. It takes a while if you're not from the channel. It takes a while to kind of grasp how to explain it to people. Especially, I have people who ask me like what I do even to this day, and it's like, well, how do I explain this audience? Jonathan, what's been the most interesting aspect of the job that maybe you didn't expect when you started?
So, I mean, for me, it's been having conversations with the CEO, the CMO, senior titles at multi-billion-dollar corporations. To me, that's, I can have a conversation with anybody. It just kind of happens naturally. But when you see the title, you see the gravitas that the person brings, you think to yourself, oh my God, what questions am I going to ask? The imposter syndrome kicks in for a moment. And then you realize they're just people and they have goals that they have set out for this conversation. And I have goals for our audience. We want to tell the best story, get to the truth, and entertain. And what they want and what we want are not mutually exclusive in any way. We want to deliver for the audience, and when that light went on for me, it's been really natural since then.
Awesome. So what's Jonathan, you're definitely been in the planning stages and a lot behind a lot of the change that's going on here. Tell us a little bit about what we want to do at Channel Pro for our audience going forward.
Sure. So I think number one is listening and absorbing what the audience wants in real time. There's that, the ego that a journalist might have of, this is what you want, this is what you need. But we want to be receptive to the conversations that are happening. And when it comes to attending live events, whether they're our own live events or channel events, I'm trying to talk to as many people as possible, from, like I said, senior leaders at vendors to MSPs to the people that were dragged to the event that are just there, the tech that is there to learn a little bit about whatever the technology is. I want to hear from everybody. And I want to cover, both the best practices on the business side and the technology side, in addition to what's happening in the channel. I think that those are the three pillars for us. And if we're speaking to all three things intelligently and in a nimble way, then we're going to deliver for the audience.
Awesome, Anjali. And how do you see yourself kind of contributing to that vision going forward? And what are some of the ways that you think you can provide some insight and some value to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% what Jonathan said. Our purpose, our entire livelihood depends on making sure that we are giving our audience what they need to be successful. And, we need to provide it to them in a way that they can take it, retain it, use it. And so my purpose is I want to make sure that we are telling the stories and introducing the people, the connections, maybe even those who are the thought leaders that others may not have thought about as thought leaders to our audience, and making the connections at events as well. That's another big thing is, making sure that our audience knows who they need to know and that they have access to those people that they need to know so that they can be successful in a way that is easily consumed by them, the way that they want to do it, not the way we want. And it's true, we do have this journalists seem to think we know what our audience needs, but a lot of times we don't. We just don't want to get in our own way, I think is what our focus is. Want to make sure that whatever we are focusing on, whatever we are contributing, it is good quality and useful and
Yeah, interesting.
entertaining.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's an important aspect as well. And Jonathan, I think we've done a lot of things recently to recruit some assistants. As Anjali said, sometimes we don't know what the audience wants or needs. And we started up what we're calling the Channel Pro Advisory Board. And I believe that was your initiative that you drove. Tell us a little bit about that initiative.
Yeah, so to me, it's very important that we are, connecting with MSPs or senior channel leaders on a very regular basis, and we are running by them specific pieces of content. We are running by them, you know, potentially award nominees, other initiatives that we have going on internally, and say, what's your feedback? I can't necessarily poll the audience on a regular basis, but I can build a relationship with these 7 or 8 people and glean from them what the best practices are that we should be carrying forward in our editorial coverage.
I love that. I love it. And if other MSPs out there think that they should be part of that initiative or be on our advisory board, how would they go about applying or becoming a part of that?
Sure. So we have a contact us page on our website. That's probably the best place to start. We will be getting more formalized, around that for 2025. For this board, what we did is we went through all of the contributors and the key people in the industry that we have come across over 17 years in business. And we evaluated them, we talked to them, and we narrowed the list down to, like I said, 7 or 8 key performers. So that's our initial audience, but we would love to grow that with people from all levels, all walks of life. We believe that diversity is important, and by giving people a means to apply, I think that we will have a really interesting cross section of the country, of the industry.
Awesome, awesome. So, live events. We mentioned events, and live events is definitely a very important part of our business. Anjali, I'm going to ask you, what have you thought about our events that we put on? And I feel like you were probably not expecting to be up on stage like leading sessions and panels when we started out. How has that process been for you?
Oh, that's been actually probably one of the most fun parts of this, I would say. Our live events are, this is for my career, the first time that I'm traveling for industry events. Of course, in the past, as a sports reporter, yes, you get in your car and you drive to games. That's nothing. But this is actually, going to different cities, meeting people in different cities, where they work, where they live. My first event actually was, Channel Pro Defend, the first ever Channel Pro Defend that we had, and that was where I onboarded. So that was actually,
you hadn't even been on board a week when we rolled you right into one of our largest events
No,
ever.
that was
day
my first
one.
day. That
Yeah.
was my first day on the job, was getting ready for Defend. That's where I met you all, in fact. So it was, trial by fire, of course, but I've always enjoyed having an opportunity to talk to an audience. I think that's something that I like to do. I have done at previous positions, and you're right. I didn't expect it to happen that quickly, but it was really exciting to have a chance to do that at Channel Pro Live Orlando, because that's my home. And so to be able to get on stage and lead some events, and get to know some of these major contributors to Channel Pro, get a chance to talk with them in advance and sort of prepare, and then on stage with them, I felt like I was able to connect with them at a whole different level, which I think is great going forward. I think that whole relationship building thing, this is a whole new level of doing that. And so I did really enjoy that. And I feel like it may have introduced me a little bit more to Channel Pro's audience as well, because I want our I want our audience to know that they can come talk to me as well. I want to be approachable.
Yeah, and the best events that we do are the ones that you can get in your car and drive to. Which
Right.
is, I remember we were like, you said like 15 minutes or something like that from your house
Yep.
in
It was very
Orlando.
close by.
Yeah, and I like it when we do the Chicago ones, because even though I live kind of well outside of Chicago, but it's still only like an hour to where we normally do our events. So it's like, oh, it's nice. I don't have to get on a plane and fly and deal with all that stuff. So Jonathan, you're a big part of the planning the live events, and we've had a lot of change with our events over the last year. Tell us what the vision is for events, and tell us what our audience can get out of coming to some of our events.
Sure. So our format is, the overall format is really the same. It is a day and a half kind of event. Our pre-day is starts kind of late afternoon, and we start to deliver, educational content, networking opportunities, and start to give people an opportunity to just kind of meet each other and get involved. One new thing that we are doing on the pre-day is our MSP matchmaker session. It's a workshop session, and we are dividing the audience into groups, and we have an expert coach that is basically facilitating a conversation around key topics. One is around mergers and acquisitions, one is around peer networking, and one is around vendor selection. And periodically through the session, we give people the opportunity to switch it up. So if you have learned all you care to learn about M&A and you want to switch to a different group, you have that opportunity. And the idea is to begin a conversation that will carry into our cocktail hour. And you get comfortable, you meet a couple of people, and sometimes that spirals into referral opportunities, and the type of friendship that you have when you're in trouble and you need a piece of advice because your VM is melting down. How do I solve this? You have somebody that you can reach out to that's local. To me, that's awesome. And then on the main day, really the same general concept that we had in previous years, where we're starting with a welcome breakfast. We have a mix of vendor content and cool educational content. And then we wrap things up with an award ceremony at the end. And it's just, the best way to meet new vendors and assess their technology, get an idea of where your stack is going to be in the future, build relationships. And then we really put a heck of a lot of work into selecting the industry experts that lead our panels. And, we want to choose topics that the audience has expressed interest in, and then go a little bit deeper into those topics and get some actionable advice. So at the end of the day, you can leave the session with 2 or 3 or 10 things that you can go home and try for your business to start growing.
Awesome. And we'll get into a little bit more detail on what some of those sessions are on the other after the break when we talk about some of the upcoming events for the year. So I have time, I think, for one more question, some Channel Pro kind of related questions. So what has been the most favorite thing that you've done at Channel Pro since you started? Anjali, let's start with you.
Oh my gosh, that's so hard because there's a lot of things that I do that I really
Other
like.
than meeting and working with me, which I know is the highlight of everyone.
Highlight, of
You
course.
stole my
That is
answer, Matt.
okay. If I had to narrow it down to one thing that I enjoy the most, I would say it's our events. I mean, going to events is great. Overall, industry events are fantastic. That's just a really cool thing to do. But I think the Channel Pro events have been the most enjoyable for me so far because number one, working remotely, I don't get to see anybody in the office. So getting to actually see the rest of the team is really cool. Actually, being part of the behind the scenes for planning our events. I mean, everyone gets in, everyone helps. It's so hands-on, really good teamwork that I see. And then planning these sessions, learning about how do we do things? What do our readers want? And then when we actually do it and we get these folks in there that are meeting each other and meeting our speakers and meeting the vendors and it's just seeing it from start to finish is really, really satisfying, and I enjoy that a lot.
Awesome. Jonathan, same question to you. What's kind of been your most favorite thing that you've done since you started here?
I mean, I'll say that just interviewing MSPs for our website is one of the coolest things that I've done. And, we put up profiles of MSPs. We tell, their story. We provide some biographical information. And to me, that's an amazing thing that you can, you know, find out what makes them tick, find out why they got into the business, and really deliver some cool pieces of advice that they can share with the audience. Because everybody in this industry cares. It really is. It's not even frenemies. It's community, and people want to share what's working for them, and they want to hear what's working for other people. So I love that.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you guys were able to kind of come on today and talk a little bit about this. And we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we are going to have a little bit of fun as we usually do here on Channel Per Weekly. And I think we got a couple of fun topics picked out. So we will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue. So stick around. We will be right back. And we are back now with part 2 of this episode of Channel Pro Weekly. Jonathan Browning, executive editor at Channel Pro, is still with us, as well as Anjali Fluker, the senior channel editor, as I now know her title. It is now seared into my memory here. So awesome to still have them with us on the other side. And we're gonna have a little fun. And it's funny, before we started recording the episode, they were a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is like how do we plan? Jonathan is a self-admittedly a planner. Is that not true?
Yes, to a fault.
To a fault. He likes to prep, and he likes to practice, and I am much more of an off the cuff kind of person. But they're like, hey, Anjali said, hey, let's just do a practice kind of thing. So I threw out a practice question, and I asked them about cartoons that they grew up on, and of course Anjali goes right into He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And while she was telling me about He-Man and Masters of the Universe, I actually have on my desk above me like original. Well, not original. It was the re-release in 2020, but the action figures that they re-released He-Man were literally up on my desk. I have 3 of them, and so while she's talking about it, I'm like holding them in front of the camera. It was awesome. That is the kind of stuff that we have here. And Anjali, I'm so glad that we share a deep connection to He-Man. Was that your favorite cartoon when you were young?
It was definitely one of the favorites. I mean, I was definitely a cartoon kid. And Saturday mornings you couldn't peel me away from the television set. But He-Man was probably one of the best I think that was out there at the time, because it had action, it had comedy, it had friendships, it had the bad guys and the good guys beating them. And so it literally had everything that my life was all about.
So did you like She-Ra as well, or
It
did you
did.
kind of ignore the spinoff?
Oh no, I've always been, one of those people that likes to know so much more about my characters. So the fact that there's a whole other show that talked about He-Man's sister was just, it was perfect for me. I loved both shows.
That's and Jonathan, were you a He-Man fan growing up?
Oh yeah, and I think that the journalists of the world love story building and they love lore, and I think that those types of shows really speak to all of that. It's the J.R.R. Tolkien inside of all of us.
So what other Saturday morning? I don't know. I don't remember He-Man on Saturday morning. I always remember that as like an after school thing, but
That
it
was an
probably
after
was
school
on.
thing. You're right.
Yeah, it probably was Saturday mornings as well. What other cartoons did you guys dig when you were growing up? What shows were influential to young Anjali and young Jonathan?
Gosh, wow. Jonathan, I'll let you go because I brought up the He-Man.
Let's see. So, the Scrooge McDuck types of shows, I loved
DuckTales.
yes, DuckTales. That was
Mm-hmm.
great. You got
Good
some
show.
adventure. You got the crazy uncle that's super wealthy. I mean, what's not to like there? And then like the Chip and Dales and like all of those shows were fantastic. And just talking about it brings me right back to that time in my life.
Awesome. Anjali, any other ones you want to mention?
Okay, so this was not the 80s. This was actually when I was a little bit older and I was probably too old to be watching cartoons, but I loved the X-Men in the 90s. I just absolutely loved, and I was never a comic book kid. My husband was, so, he tells me so much now when we watch Marvel movies and things like that about the comic book characters, but the X-Men cartoon TV show was just awesome. I loved that.
If
It
you get
was
a
it,
chance to watch
yeah.
The
the X-Men
reboot.
97, it's pretty fantastic.
Oh, I will check that out, definitely.
It was, yeah. There were some cartoons that were based off popular franchises that were actually pretty good back in the day. I remember, offhand, the Ghostbusters cartoon was actually pretty good. I remember enjoying that one when I was younger, as well.
Batman the animated series.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was a whole different animal too, and that was really really well regarded, both young and old. Of
Hmm.
course,
You guys are probably too young to remember this, but back in the 80s, they had a couple of cartoons that were based on Atari games or like, arcade games. So there was a Cubert cartoon, there was a Pac-Man cartoon. There was even a little bit later, there was a Legend of Zelda cartoon that was just crazy. So
oh,
those are
well,
some
that
good
was
ones
part
too.
of this Super Mario Brothers Super Show, right? The Zelda card.
Legend of Zelda was, yes,
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
the
that
Super
was
Mario
part of the
Brothers
Super
thing.
Mario Super Show, and that's where we got Link
Yeah.
saying, "Who is this?"
Excuse
He's
me,
right.
princess.
His good tagline. I liked the Super Show. I thought it was pretty good. I don't know, Jonathan. Were you a big super? Were you a big Nintendo kid?
I was, and now in retrospect, I'm thinking it was all just a big cash grab. So, uh, but yes, big Nintendo kid. Was that there was live action, and then they switched to cartoon, and then it was back to the live action
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
with the professional wrestler guy. What was his name? Lou something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I remember his
I'll
name.
Google it later.
Yeah, that was about the only good thing they did as far as TV and the Mario universe, and we won't even discuss the original Super Mario Brothers movie,
Ooh.
because that was a
Let's not
train wreck.
let's not go there.
So all right, so let's switch gears to movies. We got a few minutes left. So we talked a little bit about cartoons and things we grew up on. Let's talk about top. Let's say, I was the 80s was kind of like when I was born and kind of grew up. So let's talk about top 80s movies. Anjali, top three 80s movies that you want to mention, or top one, whatever. Just a movie that comes to mind from that era that was really influential for you.
To this day, it's the Goonies. The Goonies was that was like, it spoke to me so much during that era. It was just, a bunch of kids who, some of whom didn't even like each other. They went and on an adventure, solved an amazing mystery, caught criminals, and then ended up realizing that even though some of them didn't think that they had anything in common, they actually did, and they became really good friends from it all. And that was always, I love those crazy action adventure kid type of things back then. So the Goonies, even to this day, I'll still quote it all the time.
And it's amazing. I think this is actually now the second episode in a row where the Goonies was mentioned. So
It
that's
is.
actually, that is really weird.
That's
Any
fair
other ones
enough.
that you want to mention?
E.T. was probably a pretty big one for me as well. I think that may have started me on my path of, the whole life exists outside of Earth thing that continues to this day.
Yeah, good picks. Good picks. Jonathan, do you agree with the Goonies or do you have your own?
No, I mean, you can't argue with either choice. I mean, for me, I was way too young to see Caddyshack when I was young, but how can you not talk about Caddyshack and how irreverent and how they got all of those people into that cast, and it was hysterically funny from start to finish. And then the other one for me is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and I had to Google it because I thought it was 1990, but that was 1989, so it counts. And just the way that Harrison Ford and Sean Connery play off each other, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one more 80s movie I got to mention because
Yeah.
it mentions Detroit is Beverly Hills Cop.
Well,
It's
one.
so funny.
First
I
one.
was actually literally just about to say that one because for some reason, my parents didn't realize that I was only 6 or 7 years old when we were
Whoa,
watching movies. So I saw all kinds of movies at that age that I probably shouldn't have. But Beverly Hills Cop is one of my favorites.
definitely.
Lots of great one-liners out of that, and I don't think the sequel came out until the '90s, or
Correct.
was it
But that's a
Sounds
still?
great
right.
one too. The part two, it was a
Yeah, I
90s movie.
there's a lot of quotes in part two that I still use to this day because it was good. But the original was a fantastic movie. Jonathan, you a big
100%.
Beverly Hills Cop fan?
Yeah, it's a great movie. I don't know that it would make my top 5, but probably my top 25.
Wow, he's a discerning '80s movie. I love the fact that we all share like this kind of like love of like old movies. So give me two other movies that would make your top 10. Go.
Oh wow, that's tough.
Labyrinth. So, Anjali mentioned children's movies. That's a great, girl goes on an adventure kind of movie. And then Die Hard, I think, is 80s, right? So
The best Christmas movie ever.
it is. I mean, inarguably the best Christmas movie. So how can you do better than those two movies? You
Well,
can't.
and in Labyrinth, we get to see David Bowie in a crazy role that I don't know how that movie ever actually happened, but the fact that it did is just mind-boggling to me. Anjali, two other movie picks from the
Okay,
80s.
we're gonna go with one kids movie, The Never Ending Story, because once
Mm.
again, adventure, great fantasy. And then we're gonna go with a not kid movie, which was Coming to America. Once again, Eddie Murphy, probably at his best. And the comedy in that, to this day, my family, my sisters and I will still quote that movie at least once in every conversation we have.
Yeah, and so whatever happened to Arsenio Hall? Like that's what I want to know because I remember he was in that. He was really big in that time period, and I haven't really followed his career after that. Has he done anything?
Oh, he had his own show in the 90s, the Arsenio Hall show. That was a
Yeah,
late
well, okay,
night.
so post nine, I remember the Arsenio Hall show, but like post that, like 2000s on, has he done anything?
Was there a reboot of his show, or at least they tried? I don't believe so. I don't
Yeah, I don't know,
remember.
but I will say this though, I don't know if I was a huge Arsenio Hall fan. The charisma between the two of them in that movie really is something to behold.
Well, they were
Pretty,
best friends. I think
yeah,
that's why it worked so well, is because they were best friends off camera.
yeah, pretty
But that's
awesome
why we work so well, right?
There we go.
Yeah.
because because you know how to talk like Eddie Murphy. Is that what you're saying, or?
Yeah. I don't do voices, you know that. No. You guys are my work besties.
So we have our own resident Arsenio Hall, Anjali Fluker, with our own resident. She's pumping her fist there. She was not on camera at the moment, but she's pumping her fist like they used to do on the Arsenio show. That's
It didn't. Oh, did it work? Did it work? Yeah, there we go.
there
I
we
was trying to get
go.
myself back on camera so you could see it.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, awesome conversation. I really appreciate you guys coming on. We've got some headlines up on the site right now that I know we want to talk about. So Anjali, you just got back from RSA. Tell us a little bit about that and what people can go to the site and check out.
Sure, yeah. I did a number of interviews with some fantastic vendors while I was there, but I will say RSA is the biggest show I've been to yet. And boy, it was impressive. It was fantastic. Just the show floor was just mind blowing. Just, booth after booth after booth of these incredible companies. Um, our strategy was trying to mine through and find out which of these companies MSPs need to know about. But I will say, in the conversations that I had with folks, yes, AI was a huge theme there, but it wasn't just use AI, it was more secure your AI. Use it carefully, because you have to understand that threat actors are out there using it as well. So and we'll have plenty of coverage coming from that, from the conversations that I have with some great leaders in the channel, just about, what do you need to look out for? What are some things you should be careful of? And always be safe.
Awesome. And so Jonathan, you were also at a recent event. You were at Kaseya Connect. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, got some fun time with our VP and associate publisher, Joel Zadespinner in Vegas, and had a wonderful time at that event. Kaseya dropped some huge news with their Kaseya 365 product, really a bundling of their most impactful products at a outrageously affordable price. And that was the buzz from the MSPs that I talked to. It's, that really resonated with them, and they're excited to begin evaluating Kaseya as part of their tech stack again. So that was amazing. And had a conversation with their CEO, Fred Vicola, and is one of the nicest human beings I think that I've ever spoken with. And this is not endorsed. I'm not paid to say that. He is just a decent human being that cares a lot about the people that he works with and that work for him.
Yeah, and we've had Fred on the show before, so longtime listeners, viewers will know about Fred Vicola, and you can go back and check out some of those episodes as well if you like. But as far as RSA and Connect are concerned, we've got a bunch of stories up on the website. ChannelProNetwork.com is the URL to go and to see those. So go and find those, and of course we'll put some of the links to some of those stories in the description area below, or if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be there as well. We'll put those links there, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button and all the buttons that you got to press on YouTube as well. So awesome stuff. So we also have an event coming up next week. And week to week, everybody hears me kind of pitch the events. Jonathan, in as many sentences as you'd like to use. I'm not gonna tell you can't use more words than needed. Why should someone go to one of our events, and what are they going to get there?
Sure. I think that we have put together the best lineup of speakers that is possible. We have really exciting vendors that are doing new and interesting things that MSPs need to know about. And we are connecting people in ways that other events just aren't. There are RSAs out there where you can be one of 5,000. Our events are smaller, and there is a reason for that. There is a reason that you want to go to an event where you can have a decent conversation over a cocktail. And to me, the fun that we provide is, the icing on the cake.
Awesome. And that event is next week. We're going to be in Baltimore, May 15th and May 16th. Lots of great sessions. Jonathan, pick out one. You mentioned the matchmaker session. Give us one other session that you think will be exciting.
Yeah, so on the main day, Anjali mentioned AI. We are exploring ways that an MSP can monetize AI, and ways that they can use it to improve the efficiency of their own business and help their clients. And to me, there's nothing hotter in the industry right now. The reason for that is it's really impactful. And if you don't know about it, you're going to get left behind.
Absolutely.
And you're the moderator of that event.
I am moderating that session. So lots of exciting stuff coming up for that one. Anjali, if you want to point out one of your favorite sessions that we're doing it live this year.
Well, I'm not going to be at
We know you're not going to be in Baltimore,
event.
but
I won't be in Baltimore. However, I will say the one thing that I will recommend to folks who may not have signed up, and I heard it from so many people at the last one, is that the MSP Matchmaker session, being on the first day, or the pre-day as we call it, it's a great opportunity to meet with your peers. that is a fantastic time where you can actually connect with others and then continue your conversation over the next day, because that's, other events are a great place to, hear people talk, smart people say things. But here you can actually make connections. You can make real connections, whether it's vendors or speakers or even each other. The peer connections are really the biggest thing, I'd say.
And Matt, we do have a special promo code. If you haven't registered yet, you can use podcast 24 to attend that event. And not only does that get you free admission to the event, but it will open you up to thought leadership opportunities with ChannelPro. So we will engage with you, have a conversation, and maybe you'll end up on a podcast like this one day, or writing an article for us, or a myriad of other opportunities. So it's very exciting.
Wow, you heard it here first. I didn't even know that. So podcast 24 is the promo code to use. Go to events.channelpronetwork.com to register. Well, of course, we'll put links to register in below, or you can scan the QR code that we'll put up on the screen here as well if you're watching on YouTube to register. But yeah, make sure you do. We're in Baltimore May 15th and 16th, so next week. So if you're anywhere in that DC, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, I don't know if Pittsburgh is in that neck of the woods. Is it Philadelphia or is it Pittsburgh? That's by there.
Philadelphia is on the east end side.
I didn't do well in geography when I was a kid. Okay, I'll admit that right now. But if you're anywhere in that neck of the woods, please make it a point to go. You're going to get a lot out of it. It's going to be a great show. Again, podcast 24 is the promo code to use. But if you're not in the Baltimore area, don't worry, don't fret. We've got lots more shows coming up for you later in the year. We're going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, September 9th and September 10th. We're going to be in Columbus, Ohio, a new venue for us, June 5th and June 6th. It's actually before the Charlotte show. I was reading these a little bit out of order. My apologies for that. We're going to be in Dallas in October 9th and 10th. And we're going to be in Los Angeles out there on the West Coast, November 12th and November 13th. Please make it a point to make it to one of the ones that's near you. It's a great show. Lots of, as Jonathan pointed out, lots of great speakers, lots of great content, wonderful networking opportunities. It's going to be well worth it. We try to cram a lot into that time frame to make sure you get a lot out of your time there. And of course, we also have another larger event that we do. It's a cybersecurity event we're doing. It's called ChannelPro Defend. We did one last year in LA. We're going to be doing it in Island, New Jersey this year. ChannelPro Defend. Guys, tell us a little bit about Defend. What's on the docket for Defend this year?
Yeah, so that's it's still, roughly the same amount of time, day and a half, but a very deep and wide cybersecurity event. We are talking about insider threats. We're talking about incident response exercises. We have a keynote speaker from CISA. We've got new and interesting speakers that are really focused on the cybersecurity world, that want to share what they know and help you defend your own business and the businesses of your clients.
And Anjali, since your very first day was at ChannelPro Defend, you know what people should expect. What should people expect if they go?
Well, I think it's really fast paced. I think that's the one thing. The learning opportunities are fantastic. You're gonna session to session to session. There's demos, there's breakouts, there's a lot of opportunities to come home with actionable items, with actual things that that you can use with your company, you can put to use within your company. And once again, great opportunities to network, get to know folks.
Awesome. So that's August 7th and August 8th. Again, events.channelpronetwork.com is the website to go to register, scan the QR code that we put up for you, or hit the link in the description area. Make sure that we put one in those for you. And you can go register for many, many events throughout the year. We also have some online events coming up. You'll learn a little bit more about those with some deep dives and this product roundup. So if you happen to not be anywhere near any of these shows, you should at least go to the online events because we're going to be covering a lot of cool topics there as well. And those you can attend at home in your pajamas. There's no judging over here. You can have business on top, party on the bottom. We're open. You can have whatever you like because you'll be at home, and that's good. So Anjali, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, pleasure is all ours.
Absolutely. This was fantastic. Lots of good times.
Awesome. And folks, for those who are listening or watching, I'm sure we'll be seeing Jonathan and Anjali popping on to episodes here and there to talk about some of the stories they're doing or talk about some of the events that they're attending. So this will not be the last time that you see their bright, smiley faces here on Channel Pro Weekly. So thank you so much again for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. And we will see you guys again in a future episode. In the meantime, where can you go to read all of the stuff that they're writing or learn more about the events that they're attending? That's channelpronetwork.com is the website. Go there each and every day. Set it as your homepage, bookmark it. Make sure it's the first thing that you hit every day, because there you're going to find the latest news, articles, white papers, resources, downloads, press releases, all the information that you need to know to stay on top of this crazy industry that we're in that is rapidly changing and evolving, especially these days. So make sure you go there, and of course make sure that Channel Pro Weekly is subscribed in your favorite podcast player or service that you like. We're in all of them, so just make sure that you go and you hit the subscribe button. If you could leave a good rating and a comment, it goes a long way. We really appreciate that. If you like to watch, we're on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button, hit. There's a lot of buttons on YouTube. Just make sure you press all of them all at the same time, and it won't explode. Google has made sure that won't happen if you do that in YouTube. But no, do that. It's important, so that way you get notifications of new episodes. And if you can, throw a nice comment out there. I think we're going to be putting some seed questions in there in the comment section for every episode. So make sure that you go and you participate in those as well. So that is gonna wrap it up for episode 261. I appreciate everybody's time listening and viewing, and we will see everyone not next week, because we have an event next week. So that'll be a week that I don't think we have a podcast. Is that right, Anjali?
That sounds right.
Correct.
Okay, so no episode next week, but we will be back the week of the 20th. So it should be a new episode hitting on May 24th. So make sure you get to Baltimore if you want to see us in person. So that will be Channel Pro Weekly for you, is if you show up at our event next week. So make sure you do that, and we will see everyone on the 24th. Take care.